Hey, it's Dan. It's pretty common now for buyers purchasing your home to ask you to cover some of their closing costs or the fees associated with their loan. A lot of homeowners find themselves asking, why should I pay the closing costs for the buyer? After all, it's their loan, not mine. And really, it's a fair question. And if you haven't been involved in the real estate market much, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, it might come as a surprise to you that it's such a common practice because it didn't used to be. So here are our top 5 reasons why you as a home seller should be willing at least to consider paying the buyer's closing costs and or prepaids. The first is, again, it's common. So if you're willing or at least open to paying buyer closing costs, you get more competition. More competition means higher prices. Higher prices means more money to you. And while nobody wants to be greedy, more money from the sale of your house is a good thing. Number two, a lot of people think that if the buyer's asking for closing cost assistance, maybe they're not qualified, at least not as qualified, and therefore maybe we shouldn't consider them. But the reality is that's not necessarily the case. The buyer may decide they'd rather finance the closing costs than pay them out of pocket. So if I'm the buyer, I can think, gosh, I could ask you as the homeowner to contribute $10,000 to my closing costs. That means I get to keep $10,000 more in my pocket. Now, it may not be that I'm unqualified or underqualified or scraping the bottom of the piggy bank for coins to pay this off. It may be that when I come in, I want to change the floors or I want to do some painting. I want to put a small deck on the back. And I want to use the $10,000 that I have left in my budget to do that when I move in. That makes me more interested in your house. And that's, again, good for you. Number three, which we touched on a little bit in number two, is that you can wrap this cost into the purchase price. So if your house is on the market for $500,000 and you get an offer right away, and this buyer wants you to contribute $10,000, you don't have to accept a $500,000 purchase price where you then pay $10,000 in cost to them, making the offer really worth $490,000. You can say no. You can offer me $510,000. Then I'll pay your $10,000 in costs, bringing the net price to the $500,000 you were asking for to start. But just remember, you're not losing money by offering to pay or being willing to pay the buyer's closing costs. Just wrap it in and take it into consideration when you look at the bottom line. In some cases, and again, this might even be especially the case when there's competition, buyers who are asking for closing cost assistance understand that they might be asking kind of a favor and that it might not make them look good. Again, if I'm the buyer for your home and I'm asking for $10,000 in assistance, and I'm worried that maybe there's a buyer who's not asking for that, I might think, well, you might like their offer more than mine. And I get that as the buyer. So I might offer you even more than I was going to before to help offset the idea that I'm asking you to do this and make me more attractive as the buyer. Number five, and this is one I would lock into just as much as the money. By being open to buyers who are asking for closing cost assistance, it may mean that you open your mind to getting the right buyer. Because sure, it might feel weird that you're paying $10,000 off the top to cover their costs. But again, that can be wrapped in, we'll take care of that for you. But bear in mind, that could be the buyer who lets you stay in the house the longest and at the most favorable terms after the close of your sale. That might be the buyer who has said, look, we're handy. Unless there's a major structural problem, we're not really going to ask for repairs. That could be the buyer who says, hey, we appreciated that you're going to leave the appliances if you want, but we're also okay with you taking them if you like. This could be the buyer that is actually the best one to work with. They're just asking you to work with them on some of the financial matters. So there's top 5 reasons why you should consider contributing or paying the closing costs for the buyer on your house. Next time, we're going to look at 3 things that might concern you about doing that. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.